you.
Well, I can't speak to what's really going on there, not being there and not actually being able to get inside people's heads. I can only say how it appears as a, concerned citizen and a voter and someone who follows politics and writes about it. It's inexplicable to me. I can't believe that we're in the middle of this battle with the Attorney General of the United States trying to figure out what programs they have out there and had out there, and we have no idea what they were doing with this unitary executive power that they seized out of thin air. And then we're going to vote now, apparently, for expanded unitary executive powers. It's just inexplicable to me. I would love it if there may be some people here who have a better idea than I do of why that might be, but it literally makes no sense. I'm stymied in trying to figure this out. When it comes to the Bush administration, even if we don't talk about the philosophical aspect of this, or whether the executive should ever have this kind of unitary executive power, we know for a fact that the Bush administration, that Dick Cheney should not have unitary executive power. It is mind-boggling to think of putting any more power into that man's hands, and I cannot believe that anybody's seriously contemplating it. And I don't know what's being whispered about in Washington, if somebody knows something that we don't know, but we don't know it, and this has got to be how it looks, I think, to most Democrats, if not the rest of the country too. What are they doing? And if anybody knows, please contact me, because I really would love to understand it.
Well, I think one of the things is when you see Dianne Feinstein doing something like this, and you realize she's from California, and you realize she's pretty safe, the gray matter that went into that is negligible. Okay, when you think, and FISA, I'm not in Christy's boat on FISA, but this is just as a semi-intelligent person on any given day. When I think about someone, let's just pick somebody out of a pretty tough area. When you think about Claire McCaskill, or you think about some of the Democrats in the South that have tough districts, what we have to decide is, do we want to elect a Democrat that's going to go with us on most things, but on some things they're going to have to split in order to keep their butts in office? And that's something that as activists and writers, and I also do some reporting when the budget allows, that's something that you really sometimes have to weigh, because you have to decide if you want to do a 50-state strategy, then you're going to get some conservative Democrats that if they vote against some things, the negative ads that are going to come at them and the wingnut radio blather that's going to come at them is going to kick them out. We're going to get a Republican in there who's never going to be with us. So I think it's, but with Feinstein, as you said, as far as I'm concerned, because I lived many, many years in California and spent a lot of time there still, I don't get it.
I'd just like to say about some of those attack ads, there is a fear on our side of being painted as excessively soft on these issues of national security and terrorism, things like that. And I think that it's unfounded. And let me use a case study just briefly. You look at the race in Connecticut, I think it was I don't remember, the 2nd or 4th district, Nancy Johnson. Nancy Johnson was running ads that looked exactly like 24. Here's the terrorist, and he's talking with the other terrorist, but because of the Democrat, we can't listen to him. And all the media, they thought it was the greatest, most effective ad they'd ever seen. Turns out Nancy Johnson loses by 14 points. It was a rout. And so I say, don't be afraid. Let them run 24 ads, because, as much as a number of people watch 24, it's not reality. And I think, 10 million Americans may watch it, but that means that 290 million aren't watching it, and we shouldn't just kowtow to those 10 million.
Well, I think most of those 10 million know that it's a television show.
Yeah.
You know, it's not actually, you know, it's not a documentary. I mean, you know, they have.
Not like the path to 9/11.
Well, you know, they actually brought the producers of 24 and some of the stars to, what was it, the Heritage Foundation?
Yes.
Yeah, and they brought, Michael Chertoff was there. And they all sat there and talked about terrorism.
And his gut feeling.
And, yeah, you know,
And
yes, because Kiefer Sutherland is such the terrorism expert with his Hollywood career.
Kiefer, to his credit, did not go to
Yeah,
this
he didn't.
thing, so I don't want to hold that against
That's
him.
true.
But they you know, they've sort of fetishized this kind of, you know, this strange, you know, Bushian us against them terrorist, you know, mano a mano terrorist fighting thing. And really, it does seem to come out of popular culture. It's not, you know, which is really scary. Because, you know, 24 is a television show. The 10 million people who watch it, or however many, I don't know, I think the vast majority of them know that it's fiction.
Yeah.
The percentage of those who watch it in the Bush administration apparently don't make that distinction. And that is really
It's
a
their
problem.
foreign policy, right?
Right.
The thing that bothers me, I think, the most about all of this is that legally, what they're doing right now with this FISA bill is to undercut the notion of probable cause. And I'm sure that there are a couple of lawyers in the audience who know what I mean when I say that, but I'm going to shorthand it just really quickly. What that means is that you have to have some legitimate purpose, some legitimate reason, some underlying cause to do what it is that you want to do. In this case, to tap someone's phone lines. They're asking that they be able to do that without any third-party oversight, without a court being able to look at the warrant to see that it's justified, without, you know, the same things that cops all over this country have to do every single time they do a phone tap or they do a wire transaction or whatever else it is that they do. You fill out your paperwork, you go to the judge, you say, this is the reason that I want to do this because it is incredibly intrusive and powerful, and the law requires that someone look at it who's not, you know, part of whatever it is that the agenda is the person wants to get the wiretap, that some other person who's a little cooler headed in the moment looks at it and says, you know what, you're right, this is a legitimate purpose and these people need to be surveilled. As a former prosecutor, I used to do this with cops all the time, help them fill out the paperwork. Sure, the FISA paperwork is a little bit lengthy, but you know what? They have a 72-hour window to tap someone without ever having to fill out the paperwork. And the Bush administration just pretends that that does not exist, and I find it offensive that Congress is allowing them to get away with that.
Hear, hear.
As an attorney, I followed the law because that was my job. That's the Attorney General's job, and the fact that these people keep shortcutting it is dangerous, and it's unlawful, and they should be held